Bill Macaitis, former CMO of Slack, CMO of Zendesk, SVP of marketing at Salesforce. He's one of the most influential B2B growth leaders in the world. Welcome, Bill.
I feel so blessed to be in this time of our lives. Technology coming out that's literally disrupting everything.
I'm thinking nonstop about what jobs are going to be left for our kids.
And it's definitely scary. It is just a blast to be around. We're trending pretty quickly to 7 billion people that could build stuff on their own. The barriers to entry have been coming down so much.
What belief about B2B marketing did you have early in your career that you now think is completely wrong?
When you kind of look and sound like everyone else, it's so easy just to get left behind, right?
On this week's episode of The Growth Journal, we're sitting down with Bill Macaitis, the former CMO of Slack, Zendesk, and head of marketing at Salesforce. Friend of mine, mentor of mine. He's going to share a lot of tactics and examples of what drove growth at Slack and some of his companies. And at the end, we're going to talk about how to drive growth at Source. And we're also going to dig into some tactical examples that will hopefully unlock the revenue potential for your business. Excited to dig in and hope you enjoyed the episode.
Thank you so much for having me, Mitch. Man, that was a very gracious entry there, and such honor to be second guest on the show. So yeah, thanks again for having me.
So maybe we could kick it off and you can tell everyone a little bit about just what you've been up to lately, what you're working on. Are you thinking of getting back in the saddle? What's the latest?
Yeah, my background, like 15 years B2C, 15 B2B. And then after Slack, I was just like, what do I do next? I didn't know. And I really thought, either go down the VC path or kind of the advisor board member path. And I really kind of settled on the latter. I just felt when I was an operator, like I wanted more people to help me out, like when I was going through kind of that same journey. And so it's been super rewarding. I work with a bunch of AI companies now, some SaaS companies, just on helping mentor their leaders, helping them think about more innovative customer-centric growth strategies. It's been a ton of fun. I've definitely felt that pull, that gravity though, that is like, oh my God, AI, there's so many cool companies coming out right now. And, would I want to go back into an operating role? And, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but, it's always got to be like the perfect situation. But either way, I'm having a ton of fun right now. It is I feel so blessed. We're so lucky to be in this time of our lives, right? Where you have this incredible transformation technology coming out that's literally disrupting everything. So it is just a blast to be around.
I can't even imagine what the buzz is like in San Francisco right now with everything that's going on with AI. I'm sure it could be overwhelming. I'm sure, but
it's fun.
With how many new AI companies are bubbling up, and also just how many people can build apps now in the world. When I started, when we started DigitalOcean back in 2012, there was like 30 million developers globally. And I think at GitHub's latest conference, they quoted something like 180 million globally now because of what AI enables, which is pretty wild. So
I think we're trending pretty quickly to 7 billion people that could build stuff on their own.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is awesome, right? Like, I think we were talking before the show, like, you've got kids, I've got kids. It's like, in a cool way, like, hey, if they want to do something, start their own business, like there's never been a better time to do it, right? The barriers to entry have been coming down so much that I think for anyone that's kind of got like an entrepreneur spirit, like this is an incredible time to be alive.
For sure. I mean, I'm thinking nonstop about what jobs are going to be left for like our kids in the future. I'm sure every other parent is thinking the same thing.
I was talking to a friend and he was like, he had kids and he had really pushed one to kind of go down the developer path, right? And writing code. And then he just had a go. He's like, maybe that's actually not the best path anymore. So it's tough, right? Like there are so many jobs that will be automated down the road. And it's definitely scary. I'm an optimist at heart. So I think this technology will enable a lot of new things. But yeah, it's definitely kind of a crazy time right now.
I think so. I think there's going to be things that we don't even know yet, or we're not aware of yet, that will be created because of AI. So that'll be pretty cool. Going back to the original question about what you've been up to, you've also been working on your own podcast show.
Yep.
SaaS CMO Pro, which has been incredible. The graphics and the animations and how much production work you put into has been really impressive. And, speaking of production work, maybe you can share, with the audience, a little bit about your studio setup and how much you spent on it. I think a lot of people, actually was talking to someone, they were like, I wonder how much Bill spent on his, in-home studio setup.
I prefer not to disclose the amount, as I may get in trouble with the wife on that one. But I took over the playroom that was no longer being used, and just started building out the studio. And I put a couple different cameras. Here's one that kind of from the back there, so you can kind of see it's a little so crazy. Cool. There's different lighting and some different camera angles, and it's kind of like a rabbit hole. Once you go down it, I really started building out during the pandemic, and I was like, I just wanted really to give a better experience because we were doing so many video calls with all my clients. And at the time I had the worst video setup. I was like in my kitchen with a bright window behind me, like using like the worst built-in, microphone on the laptop and a bad earbud, and no one could like see me, or they could barely hear me. And I was just like, come on, Bill, you gotta do better here. And so I started just researching it. Actually, I was on a board call. I remember it was, because everything was like virtual board calls, and, it was like 8 people on the board call. It's like the Brady Bunch screen. And one of the board members just looked incredible. Like it was so crisp and clear, and you could hear him so well. And the rest of us just looked like crap. I'm like, what are you doing? And so, he sent me some links, and, it was like, I learned about DSLR cameras and soundproofing and lighting, and I definitely recommend don't go down this path because it takes forever. And there's probably easier ways to do it. Rent out a studio or something. But it was kind of a fun process building it. And once I built it out, I was like, I kind of wanted to like give back a little bit because like so many people have been helpful to me, and so I wanted to create just a bunch of videos on all these different marketing topics that I kind of learned over the year. So stuff like, branding or virality or freemium or all these different like AI and SaaS growth mechanisms. And so I created my own YouTube channel, which is SaaS CMO Pro. Everything's totally free. Just was kind of a fun exercise to go down.
What any highlights to share from starting the show? Like, has anything come from it? Like anything that someone reached out to you and it's like, hey, do you want to invest in my startup, or what? Maybe you could tell the audience.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I've always been a big believer in content and really helpful content, not just like why your company's awesome or what you do. And so I've had a lot of founders reach out to me that just see a video and are like, hey, Bill, could you help us out as an advisor or board member, or do you know an investor, awesome, or could you invest in us? Like all that type of stuff. Right. And it's kind of weird too, because you'll meet the person for the first time, but maybe they've watched 10 of your videos. And so they really know you, and it's the first time kind of you're meeting them. But I think that's just, I don't know, that's always been kind of my style. Like I've never liked kind of the slimy elements of B2B and, gating all the content and forms everywhere and people cold calling you. Like, I just thought like, hey, be more open, talk about your space, share knowledge, and, good things will happen.
That's what it's about. And content does create, inbound, interest and demand, which is true. So to get into the show a little bit, so there's 2 parts of the show. There's obviously we're going to dive into some of your story and some cool stories about Slack and so on. But also the second part of the show is really the second segment is about coming up with an idea for Source, the attribution company that I'm working on.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk about like what campaign or test we can run to drive some growth there, and then we'll test it and run it and see how well it performs on a future episode. And
I love it.
Thinking of some cool prizes to give away to like the winner of
Very cool.
which campaign does the best. So
that's super fun.
Anyway, so we'll get back to that later, but to dive into your kind of journey and your career, which is by the way super impressive again.
Thank you.
What belief about B2B marketing did you have early in your career that you now think is like completely wrong? Like what is something that you thought early that you look back and you're like, oh, that was completely wrong?
Yeah. I think for me, when I came over the B2B side, everyone was like, hey, you need to talk super formal. You need to always be in a suit and tie. You need to like have everything be purely business. And I found and I think I bought into that originally. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm kind of new to B2B. This is, I guess, just how it is. And what I found over the years, like Salesforce, Zendesk, Slack, kind of running marketing and doing different campaigns, is that people are people, right? And people will love a B2B brand just as much as a B2C brand. And not only that, like, I think when you can make your brand a little more human, make it more relatable, don't just talk all in acronyms and jargon, don't, have everything just be suits and ties and like playing it really boring and conservative. Like that just doesn't work, right? Like, because the problem is, like, in SaaS and AI right now, especially, there's, no matter what space you're in, there's a dozen competitors, 24, 100 competitors, right? And so when you kind of look and sound like everyone else, in my experience, it's so easy just to get left behind, right? And so I really kind of shifted more towards like making things fun for B2B, doing more B2C style, like ads, leaning into video, making people laugh and smile. Because I'm a big believer, like, those emotions transfer over to your brand. When someone laughs and smiles after interacting with a piece of content or an ad or a demo or whatever it is, or in the product, right? They laugh and smile, it transfers over. And when people have a positive, association with your brand, they tend to spend more, they tend to attrit less, they tend to recommend it to other people. So I think that's been the biggest thing. And it's a lot, and to be honest, it's an issue that always is coming up, especially when I'm working with other companies. Like, there's always like, well, I don't know, but we're in this space. Like, we need to be very like boring and talking acronyms and not do anything funny.
What do you say to CEO? Like, and I've had this conversation before many times, obviously, with B2B CEOs, that are just like nervous. They're nervous about, being a little too light and not being serious enough, especially in like enterprise. Like, what do you say? I mean, how do you convince them?
I think it's easier for me now because I kind of made that shift at Salesforce, Slack, and Zendesk. And so now I can go, hey guys, we did it there as we were moving up to the enterprise, and it worked. It worked great. Like, if anything, people loved it more and they leaned into it. But I get it where it's tough, and I get it. Like, any CEO or really the C-suite, you kind of have to convince, there comes a point where I think you become very risk evasive, and a lot of B2B orgs are like, hey, I just don't want to lose my job, or how do we play it safe? And so you get this really boring marketing and again, I don't think it has to be like, there's a spectrum, right? But I just think like the super boring, talking the same way, writing white papers, your product is a white screen with black text, looks like everyone else. Like, think about, like, have a bold color, right? Like, one of the AI companies I was advising, a great company, Yellow.ai, they were in the customer support space, and I go to their homepage, there's no yellow on it. I'm like, lean into it, guys. Like, you're literally named after a color, right? And they did, and they leaned in, and it really helped out. But, choose a color, choose a unique tone and voice, right? Choose a mascot. Like, it's a great way to soften the brand. The SaaS CMO Pro, like, I've got a sloth as my mascot. Why a sloth?
Awesome.
They're slow, Bill.
Yeah, why a sloth?
They're awesome, right? And that's kind of the irony, right? Like, even Slack, when we had that company name, people are like, why did you name it Slack? Like, that's a horrible name, right? But it's got a dual meaning there. Depending from project management, you don't want to have Slack in the system, or you might want to have some. So there's, I don't know, it's just a fun way to humanize these brands. And at the end of the day, we're all people. The enterprise people buying are people too. So I just think, like, that's something that I've definitely changed at the beginning of my B2B career to where I am now.
That's awesome. I definitely think, like, it's so easy to sound and look like everybody else, and play the safe route. But at the end of the day, like, the brands that are willing to take a chance to stand out, to do something different, like at DigitalOcean, we had a shark mascot.
Yeah, I love it.
We leaned into the ocean theme. It's like, I think the takeaway here for marketers is, like, look at your company name and lean into it. If it's something that is unique and different, like, lean into it. And so people will recognize your brand more often than not, when you're out at a conference, when they see your logo in a sponsor list and so on and so forth. So maybe you can this show is to help inspire the B2B growth community, and so I always like to kind of ask the question of what are some tactical examples of things that you did at Slack, things that you did at Zendesk, things that you did at Salesforce that worked extremely well. What are some things that you launched with your team that you were so proud of that really drove a ton of growth that you can say, okay, that was pretty awesome?
Yeah. Oh, that's a fun question. I'd say probably for me, the pricing and packaging evolution. So when I came into B2B, it was very non-standard to, land at a pricing page. And pretty much the only thing you could do was just contact sales, right? And, at Salesforce, we really pushed the idea of a free trial. Hey, you could download it, start using it. But it was time gated, right? And when I went to Zendesk, we started to push that a little bit further, right? Maybe it's not 7 days, maybe it's 30 days. And we tried to open up more of the features. And we went to Slack, we made it a true freemium, which was kind of rare, right when we started, right? And what was different too was a lot of times freemium plans were very I call them feature gated, right? Like that you only have access to 3 features, or again, there was some kind of time window on it or limit of users. And kind of what we tried, which worked really well, was we unlocked pretty much all the features that a user would see and have access to, right? And what we did instead is we said we still had premium plans that you could go up and buy, but really what those premium plans had were more enterprise features. And what I mean by that was we had provisioning and deprovisioning of users, right? Really important. If you have a 10,000 person org, you don't want to be manually adding them and deleting them from Slack, right? If someone leaves the company, they need to get deprovisioned that day, right? You don't want to still have access to it. Or, single sign-on, security type stuff was really important. Having a consolidated billing. So as opposed to having 14 teams sending bills all for the same company, right? You just get one bill. Compliance export. So if you ever get sued, you can take out the messages and see what was said. None of those were really a user level feature, but they were things you absolutely needed if you were an enterprise, right? You wanted to have a dedicated customer success manager. You wanted to have 99.99% uptime. Again, not really user level features, but these enterprise requirements ended up working great. And because what ended up happening was in each company, as I tried to open it up and push more for it, what ended up happening is these users would come in, they use it, they love it, right? And they would go out and recommend it more. And I still see today in B2B a lot of, quote unquote trials or even free plans aren't really, they're super limited in what you can do. There's a time limit on it. It's hard to use. And I think just innovating on the pricing and packaging, I think was really beneficial to us.
And that was at Slack.
Yeah. That was kind of Slack was kind of the finished evolution of because every company I tried to push it a little bit more on opening it up. And again, I just like that idea too.
And make it entirely free and basically make your top of funnel as wide as possible to build awareness, right?
Totally, right. And I mean, the way I looked at it was, and all this stuff kind of gets merged together, POG motions and freemium. But the way I looked at it is hey, the more people that use your product, the more people you have on your marketing team, right? Slack, we had 10 million free members. I thought I had a 10 million member marketing team, right? Because they would go out and talk about it and recommend it and share it if they're having good experiences. So I do think there's a lot of different ways you can do growth, but for us, I feel kind of iterating on that core pricing and packaging was really important. And even now it's with the AI companies, you're even starting to move away from, per seat to usage based or even outcome based, right? You only get paid if a certain outcome materializes. So I think pricing and packaging is one of those areas that for a lot of startups I advise or work with, a lot of times what happens is whatever they set at the beginning just kind of stays. It's really hard. No one knows who owns it and it's hard to iterate on it, but it's one of those areas that can give you huge gains, both in monetization and in your growth.
And then I assume there's an enterprise sales team in the company. And, if they see an email that comes through Microsoft or, well, actually, it wouldn't be Microsoft because they have the Teams product, but
maybe before they had it, right? We probably did have people at Microsoft using Slack.
Better example, maybe GitHub, let's say, or actually GitHub's part of Microsoft. I shouldn't say GitHub, but let's say like Atlassian, or let's say a big tech company signs up. They see an email address, they flag it. It's a qualified enterprise lead that comes through. Like, what does that handoff look like, and how does that happen between marketing and sales? Was that like
I think it's a fun, super good philosophical question, right? Because I think the old B2B model, and I guess like my DNA is like, hey, we should be updating and modernizing go-to-market as much as we do the product, right? So the old B2B model was, okay, have a homepage, have some juicy piece of content or a demo, and the only way to get it is a giant form, right? You fill it out, you score the leads or use SDRs, and if it's from some big company, then the salesperson calls them. And I kind of think like one thing to do Slack that I thought worked really well was more product-led sales. So again, you're kind of in the spectrum like product-led growth, product-led sales, and then SLG, sales-led growth, right? Which is pure sales. So what we did is we said, hey, get people into the product, have them start using it, and then we're going to score those accounts when they're already using Slack, right? So we would go in and use different, firmographics, activity, and essentially get like a PQL or a product qualified lead, right? So you kind of have a dynamic score based on usage, based on how big the company was, based on historical conversion rates for that company. And then, the sales team, internal sales team, enterprise sales team will reach out to that company. And a lot of times too, like, what we did, or what I really espouse is like, measure net promoter score, even down to an individual level, because this is really helpful now, right? Enterprise account managers, like, who should I reach out to in this Slack? You should be the admin. But, we would score every single person. So it'd be like, whoa, this one scored us 10 out of 10 and said, you've transformed my life and this is amazing. Let's talk to that person first, right?
Let's talk to Debbie. Let's talk to John or Sally,
Totally, right?
10 out of 10 on the NPS survey.
Yeah. And hey, can you intro us to procurement? Can you intro us to maybe another team that might use this? Hey, would you mind, serving as a testimonial for us? Like, oh yeah, I love you guys. No problem. Right. This. So, I just think like in general, like the flow of how you walk people through, how you expose them to your product, pricing and packaging, when does sales reach out? Who do they reach out to? Dynamically scoring leads. Like, these are all things that are constantly being iterated and improved on. And I really like that model. At least it worked great for us at Slack.
That's all. Do you know like any, metric, that you can kind of share that, what the freemium model provided? Was it like, a 10Xer? Was it a 1,000Xer?
I'll tell a funny story where I remember we were sitting at a board meeting, and I remember we did not hit our goal that year. But here's the thing. The goal was like, we need a 50X in 1 year. And we did something like 49X or something, right? And it was just one of those goals that you just literally picked out of like the random air, right? So it was like insane growth.
It's a round number. It's like a round number that you just picked.
Which I'm like, we 49X'd our growth in 1 year. I don't think it was that specific number, but it was something insane, right? I'm like, guys, come on. Like, this is crazy, right? So anyway, like, I do think I think there's a lot of different ways. We didn't just do like freemium at Slack. We did a lot of ad campaigns, a lot of content, a lot of different growth strategies. But I do think that even now, a lot of people are, same with the enterprise, right? We talked about like having fun or having a personality. Like, freemium is a very divisive topic, right? A lot of people are unsure about it. And I think my background was when I came from B2C, I had every single company I worked at, we had a freemium plan. So I was like much more comfortable with it. And I kind of seen like, oh, you're going to have this natural level of conversion to paid. And hey, there is a benefit of free. And,
Was it part of the CAC calculation, the customer acquisition cost calculation, like the cost to run the freemium?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And I think that's a great point, right? Like when you have, when someone comes in off a word of mouth recommendation, off a free person, there's still a cost to that person, right? Like you're paying their bandwidth costs, the support costs, maybe R&D costs. But I always argue like, hey guys, like that's pretty low. Like maybe that's, 50 cents a user, whatever it is, right? Do you want me to go out and run, a $200,000 event or buy a, $1 million ad campaign to try to get people in that way. And maybe that CAC payback is dramatically more expensive, right? Like there's always opportunity because you can always grow. It's just a matter of like how efficient you're growing. So that's how we always try to look at it.
Love that. Love that. Just to kind of finish the Slack story. There's this whole kind of notion around like what is the bigger moat? Is it the product? Is it the distribution? Obviously, with like Microsoft Teams, there was the distribution moat that was hard to battle with their enterprise customers. Maybe you could share a little bit about that story. I think a lot of people would be curious about the product versus distribution moat topic, and you obviously have probably one of the most profound historic stories to share there.
Yeah, it's a great debate, right? And the first thing I'd just say is, for any founder out there, right, they are both true moats, right? There are product moats and there are distribution moats, right? And I think the pattern I've seen is a lot of founders will come in, great people, super smart, but a lot of them come off the development or engineering side. And so the distribution or go-to-market, however you want to call it, is kind of new for them. And sometimes they will unwillingly just use a really old go-to-market model, right? Maybe they were told like, oh, you have to have enterprise sales doing outbound cold calling and bring in SDRs and just run events. And, that's like it's still a very like common, I would argue a little bit dated playbook, but very, very common out there. So I think like on the distribution or go-to-market side, it's an absolute moat, right? Like if you build the right go-to-market model engine, and that can be a lot of things. That could be like, freemium pricing and packaging, building the right brand, having the right distribution and the reach. But that's hugely powerful, right? And I always look at it, for Slack, that was massive. We had such a crazy growth rate at the time. But Microsoft was massive too, right? And what they did is they bundled it for free into their package, right? And that's hard to compete against too. And I think like when Salesforce, one of the reasons like I thought it was a great acquisition for Salesforce buying Slack, to my previous companies, was that like Salesforce had a much larger distribution as well, right? And I still think like Slack today is the better product, but distribution hugely matters, right? So, and I think it's fascinating. Like when we look at AI now, you're like, wow, OpenAI has the lead, but wow, like, if you follow up on this, like Gemini, like the market share has been coming way up, right? And they have so much more distribution. Meta has distribution. So many companies have distribution where OpenAI doesn't. They still have first mover advantage.
You can't count them out. You can't count them out, right? It's like
absolutely
Gemini,
right. So
Gemini is getting better and better.
I know, like and I was a hardcore ChatGPT user. I use Anthropic Cloud. I use all of them, but like recently I've even started using more Gemini. Like I'll run the same task or do a deep research, and Gemini's just been working faster and better in a lot of cases. So, distribution never underestimated. I think it's absolutely key.
Big time. And I think it's crazy how it came full circle, and your company got bought by another one of your companies that you worked at, which is pretty wild.
Crazy.
That must have been a fun party to go to.
A lot of old faces that you remember. Yeah. So yeah, it's all good though.
So, talking about AI for a little bit and how the world is shifting, what are some interesting kind of channels, areas of investment that marketers should start to think about, right? To drive growth for their business. Like the world is changing so fast. How people consume information is changing. Everything is changing just like at light speed, it feels like. What are some areas that you would, if you were to go back in the driver's seat, and obviously you're still in touch with what's happening because you're advising your consulting companies, and what if you were to go back in the driver's seat, what are some of the areas that seem exciting right now?
Yeah, I mean, for me, a couple I've worked with some companies that have been really hit on the SEO side, right? So anyone that uses AI know you get answers, you don't get links, right? So the companies that had relied heavily on organic SEO, have really felt it, right? So I think you kind of have to re-examine your go-to-market, your top of funnel. How are your people coming in? Um, Obviously, a lot of people are shifting to more AIO or GEO, or it's called a lot of different things, but it's the base idea of like how do you get into those answers, right? So your brand is still there and understood, and it's a little bit different algorithm. It's like you got to rank high in G2 crowd or get in Reddit conversations or video. But I think you're kind of re-examining that. For me, like I've always philosophically just thought, like, again, we mentioned earlier, like you can always grow. It's just how much does it cost you to grow, and what are the right mechanisms? The B2C person in me today is like, follow the eyeballs, like go where the eyeballs are, right? And I know where the eyeballs are, right? The eyeballs are all on our phone, right? They're on our phone, they're on social, mobile, video, right? Like all of us are spending a huge amount of time, whether it's, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, X, Instagram, fill in the blank. Like, and not only that, like they're moving away from posts to just videos, right? Like that's where so much of the eyeballs are. So some of the like strategies, and I've worked with some of the companies I advise on, is like, hey, let's move away from creating like 50-page boring white papers to like 15-second videos, right? And let's then do hyper targeting, right? So ABM, even down to the individual level, right? So where these people that are your target ICPs, and hopefully you've done that homework, right? But they're seeing like your videos everywhere, right? They're seeing what you do. They're seeing what cool customers are and how they're using you. They're hearing from customers themselves, testimonials. There's so much you can do there. And I think for a lot of companies, like even in B2B, video is always a little scary. Like it's a little more effort, work, but there's so many great AI tools to help you with that. Even with like my SaaS CMO Pro stuff, like I'm just a one-person shop. I'm just doing this in my spare time, right? And like I just started using all these AI tools, right? There's AI tools to help you choose the best YouTube title, right? There's AI tools that will, take a video and do the transcription for all of it so you can port it into written posts. There's videos that will automatically post it to all the social channels, right? There's videos that will take, maybe you did an interview and it'll, take an hour-long interview and chop it into 10 little 15-second sections based on AI. What are the best ones? Put sub captions on it and, post it out. So there's so much you can do more now, I feel like, with video. And I think that's a great way to still be able to reach people, do it very efficiently. You're only targeting who you're going after. And it's a great AI use case as well. It's like what's possible now versus what you could do 5 years ago.
You could just move a whole lot faster too.
Yeah.
Writing content, building content, creating videos. But yeah, I agree with you. I think like how much time, and I'm even at fault at this, like at night, just doom scrolling. I get yelled at all the time by my wife, and I'm like, and then I look up and I'm like, what am I doing right now? And I'm like, where did all the time go? And
I know,
I just wasted all this time, and I'm like, how do I get sucked in? just get sucked in.
Totally.
But it's absolutely where the eyeballs are. And what's really crazy is how, kind of traditional media companies are kind of dead, or they're dying. Like it's, the power is really going to like the individual now. The individual brands are becoming, bigger in some ways, and they have than some of the like larger media companies, traditional media companies. And
absolutely. Yeah, there's a whole industry on just influencers out there, right? The people that have made connections, that have large followings, that people look to and trust, right? And I just think, I don't know, I've always just thought like marketing, go to market, like it changes every year, right? You can't just use what was done 20 years ago, even if you're in B2B, right? There's always new things coming out. AI is enabling every single function in marketing to be more efficient. There's so much more tools on what you can do. You're going to need less marketing teams. You're probably going to see a much higher program spend per person, like that ratio of human cost to program spend. It's an exciting time.
Super exciting time. I think everyone would love to hear this from you. You're probably one of the most creative marketers on the planet. Like, how do you stay creative, and how do you like, what are some like tips for like a CMO out there, or like a marketing leader or head of growth, like to think creative, to be creative, to, come up with really cool, innovative ideas? Like, did you run workshops with your teams, or like, what did you do to kind of stay on top of the game? Like, and also like knowing which agencies to contact. I mean, some of those Slack commercials that you created with the animals was insane. Like, not a cheap commercial to run, by
Thank
the
you.
way,
No,
but
that
like
was an expensive one.
freaking pretty cool. So like, like what is it, just like DNA? Would you say it's just like part of you, or is there, do you have
No,
any
I mean,
secrets that you can
to me,
share?
like, I think just constantly be curious and constantly be inspired by other fields outside of your own, right? Like, I guess, and also my background coming from B2C, like, I got exposed to a lot of different unique brands, big media brands for companies that I worked with, and just got to see like how those creative teams worked and how like it could inspire me. And I just think again, like if you kind of challenge the notion that hey, B2B marketing has to be done a certain way, it opens up a lot of windows and doors that you can go through, right? And you can create really fun brands that have life and vibrancy. And yeah, whether you use, outside agencies where you do it in-house. I've done both. Like at Zendesk, we had a person there. He was amazing. And he just knew videos so good, right? And we leaned into that. We did almost all of our outbound campaigns, our ads, our videos, our demos. We all ran through this small team that we had there. And at Slack, all of our creative people were busy working on the product. So we're like, we got to bring in some agencies, right? And come up with different ideas. But I think just kind of like maybe challenging the notion that, it has to be a certain way in B2B, and just being inspired is huge. I know even for stuff like growth marketing, like I'm always inspired by B2C. So a good example is like, if you're in marketing, you should be about growth. And if you're about growth, you should be thinking about what that experience is like when someone first uses their product, right? And so like I'll be on my phone and like I'll try different games out, right? Mobile games. And I remember I downloaded, I think it was Age of Empires, and they walk you through, and it's like this game where you build castles and armies and all this stuff, and it could be extremely complex, right? But literally, like in their sign up flow and the adoption flow, there's a giant blue arrow that's like, click here to create your first army. All right, army. Click here to move your army to fight the dragon. And it's like so simple and easy. And yet sometimes you get dropped into these B2B products and there's 37 options you can do. Everything's like a 6-point font. It's super confusing. And so like one of the companies I work with, we were like, hey, let's do this, right? Let's just like, not like a little cursor, like just a giant arrow that's like, you just started, like click here first to get your first campaign or first measurement report, whatever it is, right? And so I just think like for me, I don't know, I try to be inspired, right? And I also think too, like just any good leader too, like none of the ideas are coming from me, they're coming from my team, right? And so creating a culture where people can fail and try new things and ask people. Like I've always
empowering people is huge.
Yeah, I'm a big Star Trek Next Generation nerd. He'll probably date a lot of people, but Picard, his leadership style, he always asks like his team like recommendations, like what do we think we should do here, right? And I think like that's a big thing, right? Because the higher you go up, the more people just naturally just want to say yes and not do anything risky. So like creating a culture where anyone in the team can propose creative ideas, maybe outside the box ideas, can be really powerful.
Yeah, and some of the best ideas that my team my team ran weren't even for me. Were for my team.
Yeah, totally, right?
So I think it's about the culture as well, and the team culture is so critical to build that think tank. Remember at an offsite, we had like a team offsite one time with the larger marketing team, and we and the community team, and we we sat there. There was like a moderator, and they were like, if you instead of ending someone's like idea with like, no, that won't work, right, or responding to someone's idea like, no, that's not going to work, like end it with like yes and, meaning like add to it, like iterate, right? They had an idea like I'm gonna create some shoes for my company Source as like a marketing stunt. Yes, and you should make them color blue. And yes, and they should have like logos of like all the CRMs that are there. And like yes, and like and you just continue to add, and get a partnership with like a shoe brand that would promote it to like, double your awareness. And like, yes, and like, and so I think it's important to have a team culture that continues to build on ideas instead of like shooting down ideas. I think
That's so
that's
good.
healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that
I
idea.
thought that was like a one of the most memorable takeaways for me from one of those offsite team offsite experiences. And just going back to your idea before about like sending videos to people, I just popped in my head. I wanted just to mention it, but I don't know about you, but like whenever I get an email from somebody with like a Loom video of like my website, hey, we found this error, or like, hey, we can optimize your website with this special call to action button, and I always watch the video.
Yeah.
Like it's hard not to. Like someone put in their time,
personalized videos. Yeah, that's a huge area.
Personalized videos.
Absolutely.
I mean, it works. It really works in sales. So that's that I wanted to mention that on the
absolutely.
When you're talking about
I love that one too.
The personalized video ABM play. Let's talk a little bit about attribution, and then we'll go into the second part of our show. So attribution is a major problem. We'd love to kind of hear your attribution take, your attribution journey. How the hell did you track things at, Salesforce and Zendesk and Slack? Like, what tools were you using? Like, what did the pipeline, the data pipes look like? And maybe you can share a little about your attribution journey.
Yeah, I mean, I love attribution, and I only love it because like it's in such a sorry state, right? And I think that there needs to be better tech out there to help people out. Um, marketing's hard. Like everyone in the company thinks they're a marketing expert. Everyone is telling you what you should do or not do. Everyone has an opinion on your copy, on your ads, and not only that, like it's very prominent, it's very public, and you know, uh, naturally, a lot of the board members or CFO, CEO are like, "Hey, did it work or not?" Right? And I think in the end of the day, that's to me, that's what attribution was always about, right? Just like marketing, we spend a ton of time, energy, people costs on creating stuff. And did it work? Right. And there's a lot of, I think, skeptical board members and founders and CEOs because they've worked with marketing teams that couldn't give them answers, right? Or the answers weren't very good. Um, and that's always been kind of a big passion project for me was like thinking like there's got to be better ways. Like I hate politics. I really detest it. And I always thought like politics thrive in the absence of just good data, right? And it's more about whose ass someone's kissing or how late they stayed at the office. And it wasn't just about like, hey, are we doing stuff that's actually working? So I was always kind of passionate about like trying to bring in attribution modeling, try to improve it. Yeah, like and it was interesting when I was at Salesforce we had a kind of a crazy infosec team. And I say crazy just because they were literally charged with like, hey, Salesforce cannot get hacked, right? And so they put up insane rules and walls about us not on the marketing team not just being able to use any tool out there, right? Because they didn't want that tool to be a vector into into Salesforce. And so on Salesforce we had to kind of like build our own attribution system, and it was hard. Like I know this, like it's very hard. It's hard to do. I definitely wouldn't recommend it. But one thing like I did start to get insights on is that, hey, for people like going into, mid-market enterprise, they're long deal cycles. They're 6 months, a year, 2 years, and there's a lot of touch points. People are having touch points with you, yes, with the sales and SDR person, but also on your website, maybe in an event, maybe they heard about you from someone else, maybe they saw a TV ad, maybe they saw an online ad but never clicked on it. Like there's so many different vectors where people can have this experience. And it really started to frustrate me too, because I remember at the time at Salesforce, like it was a very like simplistic model. Like it was just like, okay, whoever got like, I think it was like the last touch, all the credit either goes to sales or all the credit goes to marketing or all the credit goes to a partner. And we had like this 4 horseman model. And I was like, wait, that's not when I'm looking at it. Like people are talking to a partner, then they're going to an event, then they're seeing an ad, then they're seeing a piece of content. Like, how are we giving all the credit to just one team, right? And why is it the last thing they did? Or some companies do the very first thing they did? Like, I don't know, it just didn't make sense to me. And so, over the years, I tried different tools and technologies, and some work better than other. As you know, some systems were great for desktop, some systems were great for mobile, some systems were great if you were very event centric, some systems were great if you're very, ad driven centric or out of home centric. And so, it's a very hard nut to tackle. I think we need better solutions. I was so excited to hear that you were, focusing and building that. Because at the end of the day, like if you can't say what works or not, you have no credibility with the board, no credibility with your CFO. It's hard to argue for new funds. Your budgets will just get cut or marginalized. Um, I've tried other workarounds. Sometimes what I do, like at Slack, is we did extensive geo testing with control groups. So we would launch campaigns in several cities and have other cities that didn't get it. They were the control group, and we'd measure lift and brand and awareness and leads and pipeline. And that, hey, every system has some holes in it, but that semi helped us out. But I definitely feel like attribution tech, there's still a lot of pain out there, and we need better solutions.
No, for sure. I remember you sharing the aided versus unaided awareness survey tip when we were launching some offline campaigns. So thank you for that. And for those marketers that don't know what it is, aided is like when you basically give a list of companies, like, hey, have you ever heard about these XYZ companies in like a multiple choice list? And then unaided is like no list. You just have a text field that you need to enter, the names that you can kind of remember. So it's pretty cool. That was an awesome tip, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that's funny. Like I've been working on this brand versus demand gen benchmark study. We're just really close to launching the results on it. I worked with a couple other people, and a lot of what I found was a lot of marketers want to invest in brand, but what we found on the survey was just a lot of people weren't measuring it. Or didn't know how to measure it, or we're using like a really all right, well, how many website visits was kind of like our brand. And I guess, it kind of occurred to me like, hey, like I get it. Like it's kind of new, right? A lot of people, when they think attribution or measurement, they're purely thinking, leads, pipeline, visits, that type of stuff. But like, I guess coming from the consumer side, I was just exposed to a lot of different ways you can measure brand, right? So you mentioned like aided, unaided recall, there's sentiment, share voice, share conversation. There's a whole good set of brand metrics out there. And not only that, like it's much easier to get these now. So like, for instance, like I watch a lot of YouTube. If you're on YouTube, you may occasionally see like a aided or unaided survey. They'll tell you like, hey, which of these following companies have you heard of before, for like car companies or TV or whatever, AI companies, right? And so it's a lot easier to get this data now. And I'm a big believer when
it's a great product that they offer.
I'm sorry?
No, that's a great that's a great product.
Oh yeah, YouTube. It's a great one, right? Yeah, absolutely, right. And especially
for marketers to tap into.
Yeah, and if you're running the campaign anyway on Google or YouTube, a lot of times you already have the audiences, so they can port that over pretty easily. But once you start tracking brand stuff, then for us, like it's like we said, okay, we could see our own brand, how quickly we were growing. But the cool thing too is you also get your competitors, right? Because when you ask like the aided, well, which of the following team communication tools are aware of? You get all your competitors' data. So you could pretty quickly see how they're doing, which ones are above you, which ones are beneath you. And that, I noticed, create a little bit of a competitive spirit within the executive team and within the board, like, well, we got to pass them or we got to grow faster. And again, it just gives you like, the super skeptical CFO that's like, why are you spending $1 million on this brand campaign? You'd be like, well, actually, look, it gave us this lift in awareness. And by the way, we saw a nice bump in pipeline, and hey, this is a great long-term investment. They just start to buy in. They start to trust you a little bit more.
Yeah, it becomes more and more objective. All right, so exciting part of the show. We're gonna put Bill on the spot, in the hot seat right now. And if we were to take you and parachute you in right now into Source, to run growth for Source. Which is this B2B attribution platform. What would be an idea or a campaign or tactical experiment that you would run to drive awareness, to drive growth for the business? What would be your top idea, your best idea? And there's no right or wrong answers. The only thing I will say, it's no pressure, but we're actually going to run
can I
this
give two?
experiment.
I'll give two because I think one's going to be hard to test. All right, the first one would absolutely run with the freemium model, right? Have a freemium, allow people to experience it, put the upgrade drivers at the enterprise level. I think that would help a gazillion. The other one's just a fun one, like the homepage test. Like I would love to just see like massive banner at the top, just attribution sucks, right? And like we built a better way. And maybe it's like your mascot's there or something else, but I love like super clean homepages.
So check this out. It's so funny you said that. So my first guest, Dave Dorman, who worked at DigitalOcean and is now the VP of Marketing at Modular, and was at the VP of Marketing of Self-Serve at Grafana, actually said something very similar. He was like, you should run a campaign called Attribution Sucks. And so, his idea was like, buy a billboard in SF, just put Attribution Sucks on it. So we actually went out and we bought attributionsucks.com.
Nice.
So
I love that.
So we have attributionsucks.com. We're gonna put it on a billboard in San Francisco. So you may see it. I'll try to place it close to your house somewhere. But like attributionsucks.com, and then there'll be a video of me talking about why it sucks and how sources, addressing all these problems and talk about all the problems. Obviously, there's a ton. But yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. We're definitely going to run with that.
Anything that's a little controversial, right? Like, I think that's a fun way to do it, right? And I think too many homepages are they're so packed with information, and you have like 5 headlines and subheadlines trying to explain your product, and I just think like
so change the headline to Attribution Sucks.
Yes, there's a better way. Yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be a fun one, and that's like a classic. Like it's an easy test, right? Run 20% towards it. See how many people stay longer.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how that rolls.
I love that. I love that idea. All right, so Attribution Sucks. There has to be a better way.
There is a better way.
There is a better way. That'll be the sub copy, and then just below that, sign up for a free account. Free forever account.
Yeah, totally. I love that.
I love that. No, we'll definitely test it. We were talking about like, all right, what are we gonna do when we have like the 50th episode, 100th episode, and what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna put this into play. We're gonna test it. We're actually gonna use Source to measure its success, which is pretty cool. And then we're thinking of like prizes and stuff to like give away, but thinking it's gonna be something substantial and exciting.
I like it.
Someone would remember.
Sounds fun. That's good.
So, maybe like a branded car or something, like the Source logo on it.
There you
go. Bill, is there anything else that you want to kind of share or add, something that we didn't talk about on the show that you think is worth mentioning? About kind of the world and how it's changing, or just your your growth philosophy, or just like what marketers should be thinking about.
Yeah, I think it's such an exciting time if you're a marketer. I do think like it's scary. I get it. Everyone's like, are there going to be any jobs left over for white collar workers? But I think like marketing is one of those ones too, that there's definitely an element of creativity, strategy, and being a generalist that you can use all these different marketing tools are going to give you superpowers, right? So I think it's a fun time, right? Like I said, I mean, my philosophy was always to be super customer centric, right? Just put yourselves in the customer's shoes, give them a delightful marketing experience, good sales experience, good product experience. And I do think like the more marketers can extend beyond the traditional box that I think people put marketers in, that they're just top of funnel, and really start to expand and go, hey, we do a lot of cool things in marketing that we can help educate and sell more to our existing customers. We do a lot of cool things in marketing. We're creative that we can help that onboarding flow work a lot better, work a lot more efficiently. marketing and really growth is so powerful for a company. So I think like there's tremendous opportunity out there. And with AI, man, it's just like any person within a team can just like do incredible things now, and with how much they can get done and just the ideas and what's possible. So I don't know. I just say like it's a super fun time, be open-minded, customer centric, good things are gonna happen.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I was thinking like, what would I tell my like 22-year-old self? Coming out of college, entering the workforce right now. Like, what would I tell 22-year-old Mitch? Like, where to focus and what to kind of keep.
And what would you tell them
in his mind?
You hinted there. I got to hear it.
Yeah. No, I would say be unique. Number one, be unique. I think what you said earlier is so true. Like I think principles will always kind of stay the same, right? Like innovate, be unique. Push yourself to be better every day. Don't fall behind like technology trends. Definitely want to stay up to date. Because they're moving so fast. Like everyone in marketing should be using Claude, should be using all the different AI tools at your disposal. Like don't like let them slip by and let years pass without getting involved. Actually, what I would tell myself too is like, hey, you should learn how to code and like build apps too. Like I think the fact that like anyone can start a company now. It's pretty wild, and I think like I don't know about you, but I could never get into like software engineering.
Yeah.
Myself. I tried, but like I consider myself like a semi-dangerous like front end developer. Like I could get into like Haml and SAS and CSS to like style a website, but like I'm not a full stack developer by any means, and I always thought like, wow, if I had that when I was younger, I remember being in like CS class at high school and like just like, this isn't for me. I'm just like, my brain is not wired in this way. I'm way too creative to like to be in this field. I think I'm better suited for marketing or something like that. And anyway, so I just think like to have all these tools now to be able to actually be able to like build everything yourself. Build agents, build apps. Like it's such an incredible time right now, and just and be comfortable failing. That's another good piece of advice. Is it's don't put so much pressure on yourself. You're gonna make a lot of mistakes, especially when you're young. It's like learn from them as quickly as you can and move on. That's it.
There you go, man. Those are sage words. I had the same experience when I was growing up. I tried to code a game myself, and I literally like had an old like book, and it's like type in this code, and I typed in like 4 hours, all this like 1,000 lines, and I hit run, and it's like syntax error line 17. All right, fixed it. Syntax error line 28. And I was just like, this is not for me. I'm getting into marketing. But yeah, now
yeah, exactly.
Now the fact that like you can like vibe code and create apps and agents, like, oh man, what an incredible time to be alive and just to have that entrepreneurial spirit. So yeah, carpe diem, man. It's a great time.
Do you think you would have like a huge marketing team in today's world?
No.
With AI?
I think it's really going to favor marketers that are strong generalists that know how to orchestrate and use all the tools together. I mean, you just see like their stats on lean startups, right? On like how fast you can get to 10 million ARR with just like 10 people or 12 people. And it's just so much. And not only that, like I would even argue AI kind of sucks right now, like at a lot of things. And it's only getting like, Sam Altman says, we're using the worst version that will ever exist right now, right? And it's just going to keep getting better. So
100%.
Like, we can be pretty dangerous with the tools out there now and give it a couple more years. I think like right now in marketing, a lot of the AI tools are very like at a very specific point in time. And I'm waiting for when some of these AI tools start to wrap it all together, right? Where you could go through and go, hey, my daughter should create this business. She's selling to this group, all right? And it'll automatically create an ICP. It'll go through, create messaging, pain points, it'll create content, it'll create an ad campaign, it'll start running those ads, it'll have, all the different elements of it to understand what works, right? And that's going to be crazy powerful, right? When you have AI agents that can do that many elements there. So, yeah, I do think it's gonna be an incredible boon to entrepreneurs, young people, existing teams. I think it is. It's going to get slimmer, right? You're going to have more people that are generalists that oversee a lot of these tools, but I don't know. I mean, who knows? It's like I don't know how it's going to play out, but it's going to be crazy to watch.
It's gonna be crazy to watch. I mean, the they're talking about like the one person company in the future.
Yeah,
that's like a billion dollar company. That's like a one founder company. I mean, it's crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, the cool thing is too, though. Again, I'm an optimist. Like, I think, good or bad, right? The prices are going to come way down, right? Yep. So a lot of the stuff, when I used to have to go talk to my lawyer and review this, and you're getting billed at like $1,000 an hour rate, now it's like that doesn't cost as much, right? Maybe there's a legal tool, or you just use, general LLMs to ask your questions. And I think a lot of the tech that was really expensive and out of the reach of people, and maybe only enterprises could buy, is going to be democratized and accessed by all. So, I think that's huge, right? It's like, there's a point in time when the car, no one could afford it. And then, Ford comes along, and automobile and manufacturing assembly plant, like now everybody can have one. Well, not everyone, but it's much more accessible now. And think of how much that just changed the world, right? So I think all these things that were out of the reach for a lot of people, entrepreneurs, are going to become much more accessible. And that's exciting. Yeah,
margins are going to continue to get compressed, especially in the SaaS world, for sure.
Absolutely.
No, it's definitely an exciting time to be alive. But thank you, Bill, for your time. I know you're super busy, and can't thank you enough for coming on the show. We're definitely going to put up the Attribution Sucks headline on the homepage and run those experiments. So I'm excited for that. And and definitely the freemium plan for sure, I think, is going to be a winner. And I'm a big believer in that as well. Like, I advise and consult some companies, then I tell them, like, just make that top of funnel as wide as you can.
Yeah. You got it.
That's why, listen, open source does very well too. Companies that monetize open source, so build a wide net. That's the one of the key takeaways from this episode. So again, can't thank you enough. And look forward to sharing the results with you.
I love it.
In a couple months, or maybe a month or two from now. So.
Well, it's been an honor being on the show. Thank you for having me. It's so cool to see your career and, what you've accomplished, and creating your own startup. I know you guys are going to be wildly successful. And again, thanks again for having me.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Now, of course, always welcome, and we'd love to have you back on the show at a later point for sure. But
you got it.